Astral Pet Store. Chapter 36. Chaos Star. Ding. The main task has been completed. The host gets a task reward. Do you receive it? Ding. The side mission, First Cultivation Order, has been completed, and the host has received 3 copies of Pristine. Will they receive it? Before Su Ping recovered, suddenly 2 system prompts came one after another. Su Ping froze for a moment, then relieved. These 5 days of non-stop battles and countless resurrections are finally rewarding. Half a day before their last return, the 2 little guys have successfully completed these 2 almost impossible tasks. Of course, in addition to their hard work, the environment of Chaos Necromancer is also inseparable. As the top nurturing plane, the spirit of the undead that is diffused in Chaos Necromancer is extremely rich. Just breathing into the body all the time, the air will gradually transform creatures into undead. This is the best world for small skulls. Therefore, in just 5 days of crazy battles, small skulls can climb from inferior qualifications to middle and superior. Today's small skulls and thunderlight mice, the fighting power has been far from hundreds of similar streets. There is no comparison. Su Ping lost an appraisal technique to them. Small skull. Attribute: Demon Beast. Level: Second Order. Combat Strength: 7.4. Qualification: Middle and Upper Class. Ability Control, Rebirth, Undead Slavery, Blood Spirit Conversion, Medium Sword, Puppet, Carrion Poison, Darkness Blind, Corpse Roar. In addition to the upgrade of the earliest racial basic skill, Amputated Limb 2, Rebirth, the skeleton also learned many other mid to higher abilities of the undead, among which the enslavement of the undead is an extremely rare secret skill among the undead. The strength of undead enslavement mainly depends on the surrounding environment. If there are enough dead bodies, the horror of this ability will be unmatched. The Blood Spirit Conversion ability is to transform into its own power by swallowing blood. As for medium swordsmanship, this is not an undead ability. Only a small number of humanoid beasts will master it. As described, the strength is only moderate. As for the puppets, corpse poison, etc., are extremely useful abilities. Most corpses will have headaches when they meet. After mastering many abilities, although the small skull is only a second-order upper rank, its combat power has reached a terrifying 7.3, which is comparable to most ordinary 7th-order beasts. Su Ping is very satisfied. When the fighting strength of the small skull reaches 7.1, the qualifications identified are already middle and upper class. In the next half day, it has increased the fighting strength by 0.3. It can be seen that the Chaos Necromancer is really its paradise. The other side. Shadow Thunder Rat. Attribute: Thunder Beast. Level: Third Order Median. Combat Strength: 7.3. Qualification: Middle and Upper Class. Ability to control: Thunder and Lightning, Thunder and Flash, Multiple Thunder Image After Images, Thunder Break, Thunder and Lightning Armor, 10 Thunder Prison, Bloodthirsty Bite, Thunder Roar, Soul Swallow, Undead Claw, Life Drain, Undead Summon, Death Deception. In addition to the word shadow in front of the name, the ability of the Lightning Mouse is also scary. The first Ice Thunderbolt Pentium, which is an upgrade from Lightning Quick Charge, which belongs to the advanced Thunder Pet skills, but it is a relatively common among the advanced pet skills, and ordinary higher pets have already changed the Lightning Quick Charge, replaced by Thunderbolt Pentium. Secondly, the Ray Image After Image ability has been strengthened again. At most, 4 afterimages can be created at a time, with a total of 5 bodies. The Flying Thunderbolt that I learned in the back has also been upgraded to 10 Thunderbolt. The attack distance is farther, the range is wider, and the power is stronger. It is a must for attacking advanced Thunder Beasts. The Thunder Roar is also a high-end pet skill, and it is more common. It is a deterrent pet skill of high-level beasts, which has a deterrent effect. In addition to these thunder skills, the pet skills behind are more peculiar. Soul Swallowing and Life Drawing are both abilities possessed by the undead beasts in the devilish branch of the devil. They are relatively common. Undead Claws are also common undead pet skills, and Undead Summoning is a medium undead pet skill, and can summon undead to assist yourself. As for the final Death Deception, it is an authentic undead spoiling technique, which can fake death and completely lose the breath of life. Unexpectedly, the thunder family of beasts can actually understand the pet skills of the undead. This kind of thing that transcends their germline comprehension ability seems to happen very rarely. It is an accidental situation or a long-term reverse environment. Su Ping felt strange and funny when he saw the call of the undead. If a low-level thunder mouse on the field suddenly cast a call of the undead and summoned a head of the undead to fight with himself, the picture was almost destructive. After spending 5 days in this chaotic undead world, this little thing seems to be slightly mutated. In addition to thunder and lightning energy, the body is also mixed with undead energy, so it can only display undead pet skills. Su Ping looked at the thunder mouse at his feet. The surface looked similar to the ordinary thunder mouse. Unless he looked carefully, he could find the difference in subtle aspects such as hair color, fang length, and pupil color. In that way, when I take the small skeleton to a thunder plane like thunder clouds in the future, maybe the small skeleton can also exhibit one or two-handed thunder skills. Su Ping couldn't help illusion, thinking of the small skeleton waving his hand blankly. When the picture of thunder and lightning came out, there was a bit of forbearance. However, he felt that it was not easy for pets to understand competencies across departments. You should know that this time it is the top nurturing plane, and the thick undead air in the air has a small impact on the lightning mouse. In other planes, there may not be such a strong environmental infection, relying only on ordinary combat. It is estimated that it takes an extremely long time to understand. It's a pity that such a superb thunder rat. Su Ping was a little sorry, but thought of having a small skull in her, he felt more comfort. Sending the two beasts to the beast room, Su Ping spent the remaining 10 points of energy, and bought a primary foster place for the small skeleton to let it rest in. After they all rested, Su Ping gently exited the beast room and returned to the front room, so that he was free to receive the task rewards given by the system. What the hell is this chaotic stars struggle? Su Ping was curious. When he just promised to receive it, a vast and simple atmosphere suddenly flowed into his mind, instantly pulling his consciousness into a vast and vast universe, becoming an extremely tiny ray of consciousness in the starry sky. Around him, there are spiral galaxies surrounded by stars. At the next moment, these cosmic landscapes condensed at a rapid speed, turned into a ray of light, and shrunk into his body, with galaxies corresponding to various parts of his body. Chaotic stars try to. The simple and vast consciousness spewed out from the information. The chaos star power, rewarded by this main task, is a very old secret of the star power cultivation. Su Ping was a little shocked. This chaos star striving practice method was so shocking that he used himself as a vast universe, and used stars to control acupuncture points, muscles, and bones throughout the body to practice. Star Force practice is completely different. Astral Pet Store. Chapter 37. Extraordinary Practice. Is this a lost ancient practice? Su Ping recovered. This thing was given by the system, and most of it would not be worse. It happened that he was desperately lacking the way to practice star power. It was like a dose to send a pillow. Star Force cultivation. Enlighten the energy between the heavens and the earth around us, stored in the pronucleus of the body cells. Then weave and compress in the pronucleus to construct the force vortex, and then use the countless force vortices in countless cells to affect the external energy through the body, thus exhibiting star skills. This chaotic star strive's explanation of cultivation is extremely detailed, bringing Su Ping into a whole new world. At this moment, Su Ping was awakened in a real sense. From the perspective of an ordinary person, he stepped into the world of pet masters and saw the use of extraordinary power. Su Ping immediately closed his eyes and immersed his thoughts in the magical cultivation of chaotic star attempt. The process of the first cultivation was difficult, but it was also exciting. Su Ping was completely self-cultivating. In the extreme silence, realize yourself and the world. Soon, Su Ping felt a hazy star power wandering around his body, light and tiny like quicksand. His consciousness was like a pair of big hands, gently gathered. These star forces seemed to be called by his consciousness. Slowly the ground flew towards his body, penetrated into the surface of the body, and fell into the pronucleus inside the cell. This process was very smooth, which surprised and excited Su Ping. However, the pronucleus in the cell looks extremely small, but it seems to contain the universe. These hazy, fog-like star forces fall into the pronucleus, and become extremely small as they fall into another cosmic starry sky. Su Ping kept gathering and drawing a lot of surrounding star power, but his perception was limited, and his consciousness extended to a limited range. The range of concentrated star power could only extend to a diameter of 2 meters centered on the body. The gathering speed of Xing Li is still soft and slow, but Su Ping cannot speed himself up. No matter how anxious his consciousness is, he can't speed up the intake of Xing Li, but it will cause the disorder of Xing Li and cause the absorption speed to slow down. His whole body seemed to be surrounded by hazy star power, but the star power was absorbed into the body's pronucleus, but it was tiny and invisible. How can such a small amount of star power form a vortex in the pronucleus, or even fill the entire pronucleus? In the repeated gathering of star power, Su Ping's excitement gradually disappeared. He slowly realized that this star power practice was not overnight, but accumulated over time. The really difficult thing is perseverance. Although it is very easy to gather the star power, and the cultivation process is not hindered, but to cultivate the star force vortex, you need to do the same thing and repeat the same behavior every day. This requires surpassing the patience of ordinary people and being able to endure the increasingly boring, extraordinary willpower. This is the difficult of cultivation. The initial order of the chaotic star is the star vortex, mainly because the cohesive star force is in the pronucleus to form a vortex. When the vortex is formed, it can exert a star technique and affect the outside world. The second realm is the star realm. This requires filling the pronucleus with star power and substantiating the vortex. The burst of power at that time is like the explosion of countless stars in the body. The physical strength of itself is just like a human-shaped beast. Match. Even stronger. And the third realm is the star map realm, which is too far for me at present. Su Ping slowly opened his eyes. The first two realms of this chaotic star effort, there is no skill, it is the accumulation and precipitation of star force energy. Before practicing until conscious fatigue, Su Ping found that the star power in his pronucleus was still extremely thin, let alone forming a vortex. Even if a ray of energy was formed, it was very reluctant. It must be said that such a result is very desperate. This kind of desperate emotion is also a heart demon that hinders cultivation and will discourage people. This is the difficult of cultivation. By the way, I still have 3 copies of Prince Li. Su Ping suddenly thought that he had another reward, and he was refreshed. This original 4-stan can improve the star power cultivation. You must know that this kind of item that can directly improve the star strength cultivation is extremely valuable in the Federation, and it can usually be used by the rich and powerful. This is why those star-studded geniuses are usually from families with backgrounds, and ordinary people want to achieve that kind of situation, almost 1 in a million. It is difficult to go to heaven. Su Ping thought, and took it out of the storage space. 3 copies of Liden fell into the hands and were 3 brown pills. Each one is the size of a thumb, and Su Ping smelled it lightly, with a delicate fragrance. How to eat this? Su Ping asked the system. Chew and eat to avoid choking. The system answered. How does it feel familiar? Su Ping raised his eyebrows slightly, threw one into his mouth, slowly chewed it, and swallowed it. In the process of chewing, Su Ping felt a pure star power flow into his body, merged into the stomach, and then slowly spread to the whole body with the stomach as the center. Su Ping suddenly found that the star power in his cell's pronucleus had increased significantly. It was almost dark in the past, with only a very weak star power floating, but now it is more than 100 times more, forming a ray of star power. This elixir is estimated to be worth hundreds of days for me to practice. Su Ping's eyes glowed. He quickly closed his eyes, concentrated his consciousness into the pronucleus of the cell, and turned the star power into a series of floating energy bands, weaving each other to form an hourglass-shaped vortex base. The star power is too little to form a vortex. Su Ping did not hesitate and swallowed a force 4-stan. All the star power in the pronucleus of all the cells increased again, and it plummeted into the pronucleus. Su Ping used his consciousness to gather these star forces into the hourglass vortex, weaving the periphery of the vortex, but weaving halfway, he found that there was no star force again. He gritted his teeth slightly and swallowed the last remaining force 4-stan. Soon, the original force dam was burned into a powerful star power and injected into the pronucleus of all cells. Su Ping vigorously woven the remaining outermost vortex in one breath. Buzz. Su Ping suddenly felt a slight shock in his whole body and seemed to collide with the world. An unprecedented force came from all over the body and flooded all over the body. He felt as if he could tear a tiger. In his body, all cells had a tiny vortex in the pronucleus, slowly rotating in the dark pronucleus. After each rotation, a strong force is pushed out, which makes Su Ping feel that the power is constantly flowing. In addition, Su Ping found that the faint star force attached to the surface of his body like dust was dragged into the pronucleus by the vortex, merged into it, and slowly expanded the vortex at an extremely slow turtle speed. Astral Pet Store. Chapter 38. Panel. Is it barely entering the star vortex? Seeing the tiny star swirl in the pronucleus, Su Ping smiled slightly, which is far from the star swirling environment described in Chaotic Star Forces. The real star vortex is that the star force vortex spreads like a hurricane around the entire pronucleus, but his current star force vortex is like a small galaxy in the dark universe, and there are large dark areas around it. Extend. But although it is only a small star spiral, it also has the characteristics of a star spiral. His body will automatically absorb the free star power near the body at any time, to fill the body's daily exercise consumption, and slowly increase the star power. Of course, this rate of growth is far worse than that of active cultivation, but fortunately, the accumulation of less and more is also a lot of cultivation speed from the side. There is still a lot of room for improvement, but although I haven't reached the real star vortex, my body has been strengthened several times. Su Ping can feel the surging power in the body, surpassing the ordinary people, and his sight has also been strengthened. He can see the dark environment around him, and the pets and prices on the containers are clearly seen, which is not available to ordinary people. I don't know what my current strength is. I think it should be a first-class standard in a pet master. Su Ping guessed. The host panel has already been unlocked. You can check your situation through the property panel. The system said indifferently, with a slightly disgusted tone. Su Ping raised his eyebrows slightly. He had long been accustomed to the system's misconduct of overhearing his thoughts. He had long seen that this was not a serious system, but fortunately its ability was quite fragrant. Panel. Su Ping meditation suddenly jumped out of a virtual panel in his sight. Su Ping. Attribute. Human. Level. Star Vortex Realm. Combat Strength. 3.5. Score. Ability to control. Killing intention. Is this gone? Seeing this extremely rudimentary panel, Su Ping was a little speechless, but when he saw that his level was Extinction Realm Shaoxing, he was a little relieved in his heart, so to speak. He really stepped into Extinction Realm. Battle Power 3.5. Could it be that my current strength has reached the level of a Tier 3 War Pet Division? Su Ping was a little surprised. If that was the case, wouldn't it be too strong? You know, he has never practiced before, and today is the first practice, which shows that the 3 original force pill he swallowed before has extremely powerful effects. Almost every original force pill has improved him. 1 combat power is equivalent to being promoted to the First Order. From the newly awakened Tier 0, I jumped to the level of the Tier 3 War Pet Master, which is comparable to the college students of many star pet famous schools. No wonder. This Liden can only be effective for low-level pet masters. It turned out to be a super pill that can directly advance to the rank. Su Ping marveled at his heart. The system was really amazing, and it didn't bother him to complete such a difficult task. In other words, what does this score mean, and why is it a question mark? Su Ping noticed the rating bar above the ability item. When he received the task before, he seemed to have heard the system mention the scoring. If the score is not passed, it will be erased. This is an important attribute related to life. The score of the host can only be seen by this system. The system said indifferently. Su Ping is a little speechless. This system is definitely overbearing. The president's line, too exclusive. Suddenly, Su Ping feels that the format of his panel looks familiar. How to look? It seems to be similar to the panel of the beast. No, it should be basically the same. It just changed. Qualification, inter, score, and nothing else changed. Did you say that in the eyes of the system, I am also a beast? Su Ping suddenly froze. The system did not respond and seemed to disappear. Really? Su Ping couldn't help asking. There is still no response. I rely on. Su Ping rose to the ground and jumped like thunder. I treat you as a system. Do you actually treat me as a pet? Whoa %. The first time. Now that I heard something. The second time. Even save your attention. My Mima. Zizzy. The electric light jumped in the dark shop. The figure that was still active suddenly stiff, and then twitched and fell to the ground. Su Ping almost groaned. Your sister. The first time. Classmate Su is quiet. When the severe pain subsided slowly, he slowly climbed up and sat sadly, trying to touch a cigarette from his pocket, but found that he hadn't bought it at all, so he sighed and said, Don't let me see, at least you have to tell me, how far is my rating from being wiped out? The host does not have to worry. 60 points past the line. 70 points is the warning line. When reaching 70 points, the system will remind you that the host is performing well. The system said. Su Ping was relieved and had a 10-point rescue period, which was not bad. Climbing up, Su Ping looked at the time. When he returned from Chaos Necromancer, it was already 6 or 7 in the evening, and now it is 11. I was previously immersed in cultivation, and almost 4 hours have passed. It's time to go back, otherwise it's too late to worry. Su Ping patted the dust on his butt, packed it up, and opened the rolling door to go home. When Su Ping returned home, his mother Li Qingru remained in the living room. Take it lightly. Li Qingru heard Su Ping's coming in and whispered, Your sister is practicing upstairs. In these days, she will play in college and don't disturb her. Oh, Su Ping nodded. I'm hungry. Wash your hands first, and I will serve you hot dishes. Thank you. Although not a biological mother, Su Ping has a kind and warm feeling. Everything is very beautiful, except. Mum, why are there only peppers left in the spicy chicken? Bullshit, isn't there still a lump in it? The rest is eaten by your sister. Mum, why are there only potatoes and fat in the braised meat? Your sister has been busy practicing recently, and she has to make up her body. What shall I eat? Is there a plate of green vegetables? Su Ping dragged his exhausted body back to the upstairs. After returning from the Chaos Necromancer, he had not really rested. Practice before going to bed, just tired and just fell asleep. Su Ping turned around and lay down on a comfortable bed. He closed his eyes and felt the surrounding star power. Suddenly, he discovered that his range of star power perception had become larger, far exceeding what he had just experienced during his previous cultivation. 2 meters in diameter. His consciousness was round, spreading out to the surrounding rooms, and he saw countless free star forces in the air. Okay. Su Ping suddenly saw that these star forces seemed to be pulled, flying towards the door of his room. His consciousness immediately followed the past, and he saw all the star powers seeming to rush toward the room across the aisle, and there was his sister Su Lingyu's room. Astral Pet Store. Chapter 39, Stealing. She is also practicing. Su Ping's heart moved, and the consciousness sneaked past. I saw that the star-like force along the sand drifted along the wall and the door gap, slowly drifting into Su Lingyu's room. The star force in his room, the speed of the flying fly was significantly accelerated, converging like a vortex. And the central point of the gathering is a slim figure obscured in star power, which is Su Lingyu himself. Also lying down to practice. Su Ping raised her eyebrows when she saw the figure outlined by Xing Li. At this time, Su Ping noticed that the other party's way of absorbing star power was completely different from the way he practiced. In Su Lingyu's room, Su Lingyu's body is like the bottom of an hourglass. All the star forces flying into her room are pulled, gradually showing the outline of a vortex. The closer to her body, the faster the rotation. The last time, Xing Li was sucked into her in a nearly infused manner. She absorbs faster than me, and much faster. Can you actually control the speed of absorption of star power? Could it be that this is what the Star Pet Academy teaches? Su Ping had tried all kinds of efforts before, and could not speed up the absorption of star power. He thought that the speed of absorption was constant, but Su Lingyu's cultivation gave him new knowledge. Surprised, Su Ping began to observe carefully. Soon, Su Ping discovered that Su Lingyu's absorption of star power was mainly concentrated in the abdomen dantian. In his dantian, there was a small star force vortex. This star force vortex rotates rapidly, resulting in a strong traction force. Through the body, the star force that is driven to the outside of the body also rotates, which in turn causes a large external vortex. The traction force of this external vortex extends widely, so that the star forces outside the range of conscious perception will also be traction, and slowly fly over. When these star forces enter the external vortex, they will become part of them and quickly be taken by Su Lingyu. Absorb. Actually traction. Su Ping suddenly realized. How simple is this? How did you never think of it before? Indeed, consciousness cannot control the star power outside the body, but it can control the star power inside the body. I try to. Su Ping retracted his consciousness and returned to his room. The consciousness only extended to the range of the bed. He controlled the vortices in the pronucleus of all cells and spun quickly. Buzz. Suddenly, a hurricane was lifted by Su Ping's bed, and a wind was generated out of thin air, which caused the sheets hanging down to the bed to flutter. The free stellar force slowly drifting to Su Lingyu's room beside Su Ping suddenly became disordered, like a group of ants on a hot pot, chasing all over Su Ping's body chaotically. Okay. Su Ping was stunned, and stopped spinning quickly. Xing Li's chaos. Is the traction too mixed? Su Ping frowned slightly, and all the vortices in his pronucleus were rotating at the same time. These light star forces were pulled into chaos. After thinking about it, Su Ping tried to learn Su Lingyu's method, and concentratedly created a large star swell somewhere in the body. Whoa! The star force slowly drifting towards Su Lingyu's room suddenly stopped, and was pulled by a force, flying towards Su Ping's abdomen dantian in a vortex. It's done. Su Ping was a little delighted to feel the structure of the outer star spiral. At this time, he found that the star power in Su Lingyu's room was slowly being dragged over one by one. My star vortex is stronger than her. Su Ping was a little surprised, and immediately stopped absorbing. Okay. In the room, Su Lingyu, who was lying on the bed and practicing while reading a book, suddenly felt that the star in the outer body was slightly shaking, and she couldn't help but be surprised. When she stopped reading the book and felt it carefully, she found that Xing Xuan had returned to normal again. It seemed that the previous reaction was only an illusion. Strange. Su Lingyu was a little puzzled, but when the situation returned to normal, she didn't think about it anymore and continued to hold the soft pillow, touching the black charcoal and immersing herself in the world of the book. The book that can let her pick up a lamp to read at night is naturally not a boring textbook, but her favorite hot-blooded boy. Unlike other girls, she has no love for TV dramas and movies, comics, and the like. After all, there is such a bad brother, and her illusion of boys has been destroyed to a point. Did you notice it? Su Ping felt that the other party seemed to have no movement, and his eyes flickered slightly. Since that is the case, he can try another one. After seeing the training methods of the Su Lingyu school faction, Su Ping's thoughts on the cultivation of Xingli were completely opened. Since he can create a star swirl inhalation practice in his body, maybe he can also create a reverse star swirl. I wonder what effect it would be. Try it. With previous experience in cultivating chaotic star attempts, Su Ping is still a bit of a whirlpool. He controlled the range of consciousness around him, not exceeding the range of the bed, and then quickly condensed the reverse vortex. Soon, a star force vortex appeared again in his dantian, but this time he did not draw the surrounding star force inhalation. Instead, he quickly pushed the star force around him, causing the body to fall into an energiless zone without star power. Really? The effect is similar to Su Ping's guess. He is a little excited. Although the energy-free zone he created seems to have no effect, it is a successful attempt. Seeing that the pushed Xing Li flew towards Su Lingyu's room faster, Su Ping froze for a moment, and suddenly his heart moved, and another conjecture appeared in his mind. Just like that, you need to create 2 star swirls. Su Ping's eyes flickered. Although it was a little difficult, it was more challenging. He tried immediately. First, a small range. Soon, Su Ping created 2 star vortexes in the body, one after the other, one pros and cons. In the air outside the wall behind him, a large amount of free star power was drawn by the vortex and poured into Su Ping's back. However, this star force was not absorbed by him, but was released from the front of his body. His body is like a connector that gathers the surrounding star power and sends it out in a bundle. These transmitted star forces, after contracting in Su Ping's body, condensed relatively tightly, and were drawn by the star swirl in Su Lingyu's room. Okay. Su Lingyu, who was immersed in the comic book, suddenly felt a little warm in the abdomen, very comfortable, and the whole body was warm, as if immersed in the hot spring. She couldn't help but moan gently. When the voice came out, she immediately recovered. She couldn't help but stunned. She immediately felt it carefully, and was surprised to find that the reason why this warm sense of penetration was because the surrounding star power suddenly became rich several times. What happened? Su Lingyu sat up in surprise. How could the concentration of star power suddenly increase so much? Astral Pet Store. Chapter 40. Daily. It really works. Su Ping sensed in his consciousness that the beam-shaped star forces he had compressed were absorbed by Su Lingyu, and these compressed star forces were obviously more complementary than the free loose star forces. In this way, Su Ping can help others and accelerate the cultivation of star power. Have mastered another ability, just. Although the effect is as expected, but this ability seems to be useless, I can't practice it myself. How can a kung fu be a tool person to nurture others? Su Ping shook his head slightly to stop the star swirl output on his chest. Recovered again. Su Lingyu was about to get up to see what happened, and suddenly sensed that the concentration of star power in the room had returned to its original appearance, and could not help but stunned. I heard teachers say that the star power around some strong people's body will be very rich. Could it be that some strong people just passed downstairs? Su Lingyu was a little suspicious. She got up and opened the curtain with the cartoon bear on it, then opened the window, and the probe looked out. Their house was on the roadside, and at night, there was no figure passing by. Su Lingyu was a little suspicious and felt it carefully. The surrounding star power had already returned to normal, and she could not feel anything. It seems to have gone. Su Lingyu was a little disappointed, and felt a little frustrated in her heart. The strong man who can inadvertently make the star power around the body is the top pet strategist, an idol that many people are looking for, but unfortunately passed by her, so missed it. However, one day, Miss Ben will also become such a top powerhouse. Su Lingyu secretly said, immediately raised his chin, pulled the curtains, turned and jumped onto the bed, beautifully picked up the comic book and continued to read. Try Xing Xuan homology. In the room, Su Ping continued to try other ways of star power cultivation. He was very interested in star power cultivation for the first time, which made him very interested. He immersed himself in his suspicions one by one. Halfway through the play, Su Ping felt that Su Lingyu in the opposite room had stopped practicing and seemed to be asleep. Su Ping looked at the time and it was really late. It was already 2 o'clock in the morning. I should go to sleep too, otherwise I won't get up tomorrow. I'll wait to go to the store and try again. Su Ping yawned, stopped new attempts, and quickly constructed a normal star vortex in his body. While practicing normally, he flipped out his cell phone, found several bad films in the cell phone, and slowly looked at it. Within 5 minutes, he was drowsy. Get up. A sweet and coquettish voice came from the side. Su Ping opened his eyes slightly and saw the light, knowing that it was already dawn. He rubbed his eyes, turned his head around the sound, and saw a grimace with blood bleeding. Unlike the ghost faces I saw a few times before, this time I bleed more blood, and there were maggots crawling on the surface. Early in the morning. Is this to affect my appetite? Eat my breakfast. Having had the experience of the Chaos Necromancer realm, Su Ping was already immune to this kind of thing. For those weird and strange things he saw in the Necromancer realm, this grimace was still pretty good. What? Su Ping gave a kiss. Alas. Not a question, but a disapproval of a long tone. Su Ping raised her eyebrows and glanced at the girl standing at the door. Are there any new tricks that are boring? Disgusting. Su Lingyu looked at him with a disgusted face. Could it all be spoken? This guy really is a beast. Seeing her extremely disgusted look, Su Ping couldn't help but roll her eyes. You can make the phantom flame make such a disgusting grimace, and you are not allowed to kiss another person. Is it right? Too lazy to quarrel with her, Su Ping used the ultimate expulsion technique and opened the bed while saying, "I'm sleeping naked." Ah. Opposite is a smear. Su Ping stunned. "Isn't I seen it, sleeping naked?" Su Lingyu looked disdainful. Su Ping suddenly embarrassed, his brain buzzing. "Seen. When did you watch it? Why is there no impression in the memory of the original owner?" "Oh yeah, when I was a kid, I really ran around naked but." "Do you remember such a small thing?" Su Ping couldn't help but stunned. "Do you think my brain is the same as your pig's head? Miss Ben is a genius girl, do you understand the genius?" Su Lingyu smeared and made a move, and a black ball rolled out of the bed. Snowball's phantom beast. The phantom flame beast barely climbed up, gave Su Ping an angry look, and then jumped to Su Lingyu's shoulder. Wow. Su Lingyu turned smartly and closed the door. It seems that the concession doesn't work. Can it still be used to suppress violence? Su Ping looked at the trembling door, shook his head slightly, and sighed. By the time he changed his clothes and went downstairs for dinner, Su Lingyu had almost eaten. "You, have you eaten? Hurry up, we are going to leave. To see today." There were several girls' voices outside the door. Su Ping raised her eyebrows, and saw 3 girls of the same age as Su Lingyu standing at the door. They seemed to be Su Lingyu's classmates. "It's almost time." Su Lingyu quickly put on her coat and moved quickly. Su Ping raised his eyebrows. At this moment, Su Lingyu's voice was not as brutal as he usually talked to him. This voice is refreshing, soft and with a trace of pureness. Listening to the voice alone is definitely a very polite lady. Soon, Su Lingyu, who changed her outfit, left with several classmates. Walking in the courtyard outside the door, Su Ping also heard their voices faintly. After all, his physique is no longer ordinary, and his hearing is very sensitive. "Is this the pointless brother you said? It really looks decadent. Although it feels useless, it looks pretty handsome, and the genes of your family are really good." Several girls tweeted. Decadent. Su Ping is a little speechless. Which of your eyes saw me decadent? However, these people do not have the ability to distinguish, but the aesthetic level is pretty good. For this reason, I can be forgiven. It seems that this sister has a good relationship with her classmates, but it is all an illusion, and only I know her true face. Su Ping snorted quickly, finished eating quickly, said to Mum, and rode to the store. Arriving in the store, Su Ping immediately handed over the pets brought back from Chaos Necromancer to the system for identification. This also includes the hell red orb that was snatched from the Bone Throne. These pets are strange, but there is no hindrance under the recognition of the system, and the price list quickly flows in. There seem to be many good things. Su Ping doesn't know the goods, but he can see the high and low from the price. In this pet, the general price is around 700 or 800, and the price below 500 is very rare. However, some of them are hell and can only be sold for tens of dollars.